I will call the meeting of the Bourne Select Board to order on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. Note this meeting is being televised, streamed, or recorded by Bourne TV. If anyone in the audience is recording or videotaping, they need to acknowledge at this time.
Sorry.
Jamie? Thank you.
So, I'm imagining Dr. Thayer's coming, or is he not here today?
Is someone on Zoom? You need to unmute yourself because we can hear everything you're saying. Who's talking? Who does that say?
They're all unmuted, I think.
They're all muted now.
That is weird.
Use of flash photography during select board meetings is prohibited. If anyone in the public wishes to access the meeting, they can do so by calling the following conference line, 1-929-205-6099. The Zoom meeting ID is 869-577-5505. The password is all uppercase, Bourne, B-O-U-R-N-E. The Zoom chat will not be monitored. Participants on Zoom who wish to speak must raise the hand icon until the chair asks them to unmute.
Can you disconnect your audio, please, MJ? I'm sorry.
I'm not connected to audio.
You're-
I didn't join with audio.
Who is the select board on?
Who's
Oh,
not
there's two.
highlighted?
There's two.
Who's the select board with the camera off?
John, are you,
That would
I
be
think
me.
John's
No,
hooked up,
that's
but he
not
wouldn't be
John.
on the select board. He would be under his own.
No, it's not. It says join audio. I didn't join audio. It usually doesn't
Okay.
make any noise when I do that. It's not speaking, right?
Muted. But I can't mute, I
I
can't mute
can't
it.
hear it now. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I mean, the last couple times I haven't joined the audio so that I didn't have that
Right.
problem. So if you're not hearing it, I think it was, I think it might have been someone else.
It might have been me, I just left the meeting, so.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All items within the meeting agenda are subject to deliberation and votes. Moment of silence to recognize our troops and public safety personnel. And salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to skip the reading of the vision and mission because we read them earlier at the sewer commissioners meeting. Next item is a community shout out and recognition.
I have a shout out, Madam Chair.
Okay, Anne Marie.
Big shout out to John Barmashi, Jacqueline Valencia, and Caden Dorothy, who are 3 Bourne High School students selected to represent all of Cape Cod in the New England Band at the Rose Parade in Pasadena, California. So they'll be participating in that parade, as well as a couple days before there's a band fest. So they'll also be participating in the band fest. So we're very proud of those 3 Bourne High School students chosen to represent us in California. Very exciting.
Okay, anybody else?
I'll do a quick one. I'd like to do a quick shout out for the folks that did the Homeless for the Holidays. I think they did a really amazing job. I was able to get by and put my money in the boot and all of that, and I hope everybody else did, but they were out there and it was cold, so I wanted to make sure I note that, yeah.
I would just like to add to that the boys and girls basketball programs also helped to offload the toys for the homeless of the holidays, and they offloaded and organized about 1,500 toys.
Wow,
It's pretty
that's great.
amazing. Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to the Bourne Police and Bourne Fire Department for the way that they conducted themselves at last Friday night's sensitive situation over in Sagamore Beach. It was pretty sensitive and stressful at times, but under the leadership of Brandon Isip and Dave Palanzi and others that came in from other communities to help us out, what could have been a real bad situation worked out the best that it could. So I want to give a public recognition to our Bourne Fire and Police Departments for what they did. And also on Monday morning, there we swore in a new police officer. I don't know the gentleman's name.
Reason. Yeah.
So I just want to recognize him and best of luck in our department.
Thank you. Next item is public comments on non-agenda items. Has anyone signed up for a public comment on a non-agenda item?
No.
Is there anyone on Zoom for a public comment on a non-agenda item? I don't see anyone. Okay. Next item is presentation and discussion with representatives from Mass Department of Transportation regarding the replacement of the canal area bridges. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Cordero. I'm the project manager for the Cape Cod Bridges program, and just want to thank the board for allowing us to come down here tonight and speak a little bit more about what we have proposed as part of the replacement of both the Sagamore and Bourne bridges. So, we recognize that a lot of you did attend the recent open house that we had in person here at the Veterans Memorial Community Center on November 18th. But we did want to spend a little bit more time, a little more one-on-one FaceTime with the board to sort of get some of that feedback that we need from you all. Because you do have your finger on the pulse with what's happening in the community and what's happening, in and around the program area. So we wanted to get your feedback on the key aspect of the design that we presented upon at the November 18th open house, which was our recommended interchanges for one interchange at each quadrant at the Sagamore and Bourne bridges. So we wanted to sort of get your feedback on that. I do also have, going through the agenda here, I did want to touch base a little bit on where we stand regarding funding and the environmental review process, and as well as a little bit of an update on the project development process before I turn the mic over to representatives from HNTB and Stantec who are supporting MassDOT on the project to really walk through what those recommended interchanges are in greater detail. And we look forward to hearing your input on it. So moving on to funding, as you know, just to keep this as brief as possible, we did receive full funding for the Sagamore Bridge project, and the funding for that project is comprised of various sources of federal aid coming from U.S. DOT, as well as state bond funds and funding from the Army Corps of Engineers. And on the Bourne Bridge project side, as you know, we've been pursuing funding as aggressively as we possibly can, and we recently put in multiple applications to receive funding from the U.S. DOT back in the spring as well as the summer of 2024. And since then, we have heard back on one of those applications for one of those grant funding sources, and U.S. DOT released a press release where they did not note the Bourne Bridge project would be eligible or would be awarded funding under that particular program. I believe it was the MEGA program. So we're still waiting to hear back on the other funding sources, and we're also working to shore up funding from the Army Corps as well as our own state bond funding. So that's something that we're actively pursuing, despite we did not get awarded the MEGA grant application. Regarding the environmental review process, again, just briefly here, as you know, the appropriate class of action for the project under the National Environmental Policy Act was determined by Federal Highway to be an environmental impact statement. So we've started the environmental review process under an EIS back in February of 2024. That was with the publication of what's called a notice of intent. So that sort of kicks off the NEPA process and the required 2-year window to complete said process. So again, we started it in February of 2024, and we have 2 years to go through that process. Since then, we've completed NEPA, what's known as scoping, and that concluded in and around the end of May, and that was also the open house we held in May of 2024, that also sort of served as one of the scoping meetings, as well as a virtual public information meeting that we had. And since then, we've been working on the state side as well to combine the NEPA review with the state Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act review. We're progressing both the EIS and the MEPA EIR at the same exact time for both the Bourne and the Sagamore bridges. And the alternatives that we will be looking at in that document, or in those documents, will include a build alternative and a no build alternative. And the build alternative, which you've seen numerous times, includes the bridge type, size, alignment that you've seen, as well as the other various design parameters related to the bridge, along with one interchange for each bridge at each side of the canal. So a single set of 4 interchanges. So we obviously went through a rigorous evaluation process to ultimately select what we call our recommended single pairing of highway interchanges. And that included rolling that out to the public, as well as getting feedback from you all as part of the advisory group, and as well as environmental review agencies through that NEPA regulatory process. So moving on to discuss project development very briefly. What I want to say here is just to sort of set the stage for when I turn the mic over to James and Jill to talk about the recommended interchanges, just talk about those key program goals for a minute. And what we've been maintaining for the past several years is our construction methodology. What we want to do is maintain 2 lanes of travel in each direction throughout the entire duration of construction, which, as you've seen, we've been saying that construction is set to last multiple years. We also want to make sure that we maintain all ramp connections and local roadway connections throughout the duration of construction, similar to keeping the main line highway open, 2 lanes of travel the entire time. And really, we recognize that this project is going to be going on for a long time. The community is bifurcated by these bridges and the interchanges. So we wanted to minimize the construction period impact by keeping everything open and keeping traffic patterns generally as they are today throughout construction. And we also, of course, wanted to remove traffic from the existing bridges as soon as possible to avoid a situation where the Army Corps needs to undertake something larger than the preventative maintenance actions that you've seen happen over the past couple of years, and avoid as many of those preventative maintenance actions from occurring as well. And of course, typically there is a moratorium on roadway work on the Cape in the summertime. Our assumption is that that moratorium would be lifted for this project, again, to minimize the overall construction duration. If we had to shut down over the summer, of course, it would extend the construction duration quite a bit. And we wanted to minimize the amount of time that we were here, and creating a temporary impact. So this figure just generally describes the staging for the mainline highway. Here we're thinking about this as either the Bourne or the Sagamore Bridge. So the first, on the top right, you'll see that's just the existing condition, the existing bridge. And the first stage, generally speaking, will be constructing one of the structures. As you remember, we're going with a twin deck configuration, so each direction of travel will be on an independent structure. And that really helps in this instance here, where we're able to build 1/2 or 1 barrel of the new bridge and then shift all of the traffic over, 2 lanes of travel in each direction, onto that 1 barrel. And actually, the temporary condition in this phase, it does leave a little bit more space than in the existing condition. And you can also see for the Sagamore here, we will have the shared use path on the first bridge that will be constructed, the first barrel. And then the existing bridge will be demolished, again, because we don't need it at that point. All of the traffic will be off of it and on 1/2 of the new structure. And then once the existing bridge is demolished, that will leave us with room to construct the second half of the new bridge barrel. And then we will finally shift traffic back over to the final condition. And that's a simplified version. However, I think that really paints a good picture of what will occur in terms of our just meeting our overall goal of keeping everything open throughout the entirety of construction. So I think that's all I had. So at this point, I'm going to turn the mic over to James Barnack from HNTB, and he's going to go through the recommended Bourne interchanges.
Do you want us to hold all questions until the end?
No, not at all.
Can you just go back to that slide, the sidewalks, the pedestrian use things?
Yes.
So, my recollection is that on the Bourne Bridge configuration, the sidewalk's gonna stay on the same side as where it is now, is that? And that on Sagamore, it's gonna totally change to be moved way to the west?
Yeah, Sagamore, we're going to have the shared use path on the inboard side, I suppose, towards the middle of the canal. And that really gives us enough space to be able to get the shared use path down to grade. And as you remember, we're trying to connect the shared use path to the Army Corps owned canal service road as a key benefit to the multimodal accommodations we're proposing. So in order to get the shared use path down to the canal service road, we need to, there's a lot of, vertical clearance that we need to navigate, and we obviously need to do so in a manner that meets all applicable accessibility requirements like the Americans with Disabilities Act. So we do actually need quite a bit of space to get those shared use path facilities way up from on the bridge down to at grade. And obviously putting it on the inboard side, for instance, on Sagamore North, you can see there's a lot of space available to be able to get that shared use path down to grade. If it were to go on the other side, then we would be probably looking at more impacts to properties, and the grades would be more challenging. So that's why we proposed it for the Sagamore Bridge on that side.
I'm good for now.
Okay. I may come back to that.
Yeah.
Just because, although it might make sense for the shared use path, where if you're talking about pedestrians who live in the apartments and then the proposed new apartments that are on the east side, to get to the park and ride on the east side, or those other service things that are really the commercial part of, you're adding a lot of distance for them to go all the way down and then across and then all the way back. So I just want to think about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And this meeting's for you, so
Yeah.
as many questions as you have, feel free to
Okay.
answer them. And Jill will be going through the Sagamore interchanges in more detail, so you'll be able to see how we're able to sort of manage the entire multimodal network, not just the mainline shared use path, but also what's going on the approach roadways.
Okay, that'll be helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions before we keep moving?
We can keep going.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So, as we go through the rest of the slide deck,
Could you introduce yourself for the record? Thank you.
James Barnack, HNTB, Highway Design Lead for Bourne Crossing. I do want to just bring to your attention as we go through the rest of the slide deck, the orientation of the north arrow does change throughout the graphics, and that's only because we're trying to give the best representation to show you what's going on in the proposed condition. This is the Bourne Crossing showing both Bourne North and Bourne South. I think it's a great way to show what the project limits are. It's also a great way to show some of the improvements that we've done. And one thing I want to call out, and we'll go into it a little bit more in detail, but in the current condition, if you're coming down 495 and 25 and you want to go to Route 6 to the Mid Cape or Outer Cape, most likely you would cross the bridge, go into the rotary, take Sandwich Road, and then get it on Route 6. we've added 2 direct connect ramps, the eastbound off-ramp and the westbound on-ramp, so traffic can take Scenic Highway to Route 6 and bypass what was the existing rotary, which should improve operations. So diving into Bourne North interchange, the recommended interchange, you have seen it before. It's we've maintained the existing trumpet configuration of the ramps. We are calling this the direct connect ramps because we have added this new eastbound off-ramp that I just mentioned, and then we've added this new westbound on-ramp that connects Scenic Highway to Route 25. In addition, we have added a single-lane roundabout at Andy Olivia Drive in Nightingale Road. And then the other thing is we've improved bicycle and pedestrian accommodations throughout Bourne North with desired connections to Belmont Circle along Scenic Highway, to the Canal Service Road right here, and also along Scenic Highway, which are great improvements to the area. So zooming in to the west of the main line along Scenic Highway, what I wanted to point out is we've narrowed Scenic Highway to 1 lane in each direction, and this allows us to improve multimodal accommodations along Scenic Highway to Belmont Circle and to Bourne Scenic Park. We are allowed to do this because of the direct connect ramps. They reduce the traffic volumes within Belmont Circle by 37%, and it also allows Belmont Circle to largely remain in its current configuration.
Can I ask a question? When you say you bringing it down to single lane, are you talking about from the single lane roundabout to Belmont Circle? Is
That's
that-
correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
so-
just want to,
You know, I think that's a great question. And so to clarify, so there's 2 lanes right now in each direction. And because of the direct connect ramps, and that really separates regional and local traffic, we're able to reduce Scenic Highway to 1 lane in each direction. And we're proposing a shared use path on the south side and a sidewalk on the north side. This is a aerial rendering of what I just discussed. So this is a rendering looking north. So you can see Nightingale Pond here. This is the new main line, so the northbound is on the right, the southbound is on the left. Scenic Highway, 1 lane in each direction with a median divider, and shared use path on the south side, sidewalk on the north. I think this is a really great angle that shows that new eastbound off-ramp direct connect. So it's a flyover Scenic Highway. It goes underneath the main line, and then it's an add lane condition to Scenic eastbound. You can also see in the background, this is that new westbound off-ramp that goes over Nightingale Road. So east of the main line along Scenic Highway, you can see, sorry, my cursor. The single lane roundabout that I mentioned, it improves operations and safety. It also creates a gateway into Belmont Circle. The speeds along Scenic Highway east of here are relatively high, and what we wanted to do is create a safe space for the community. As drivers come into Belmont Circle, they'll enter the roundabout at a slower speed. In addition, the direct connect ramps reduce the traffic volumes at the Nightingale intersection by 50%, and it improves access to and from the Nightingale neighborhood and Bourne Scenic Park. And this is something we've heard from the community. The residents in the Nightingale Road neighborhood have a hard time accessing Scenic Highway because of so much volume. Now they'll be able to do that. And same with the campers that are entering Bourne Scenic Park. I also want to bring to your attention that the westbound on-ramp, which is the direct connect right here, because we've added this, there are several abutters along Scenic Highway that have access to Scenic Highway currently. Because of this direct connect ramp and the speeds at which vehicles will be accessing this ramp, we have extended Nightingale Road down here, and we're creating a hammerhead shaped configuration that connects 3 driveway abutters. So now they'll have access to Nightingale Road, and they will not have access to Scenic Highway, which improves access management and safety. This is a rendering east of the main line, again looking north from a perspective. This is Nightingale Pond. This is the northbound main line on the right. The southbound main line is on the left. This is that eastbound off-ramp direct connect that I discussed earlier. This is the westbound on-ramp that goes over Nightingale. And you can really see the grade separation. And from this rendering, what we tried to do is really separate out regional and local traffic.
Question.
Yep.
There's this roundabout. If people are coming out of Bourne Scenic Park with those big motorhomes and they try to go around that roundabout and then to get onto the road, I'm sure you put templates in place to see, but I'm just curious if that's going to be big enough for them to make the turn all the way around.
Yeah, it's a great question. So all of our designs accommodated WB 67, which is the largest tractor trailer. So it will accommodate the campers, and actually the roundabout with the turning radius, them entering Bourne Scenic Park and exiting will be improved because we've improved the sight lines.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry, can I just, before we go to Sally?
I think we should pause before we get too much information overload. I think it's good to ask questions, sort of each one.
Certainly.
I think it might make sense. Did you have a question, Marlene?
I just want to, I do think it is something the board should note that this hammerhead from Nightingale Pond Road, that is something that we need to talk about then taking.
Yeah.
So it would be constructed as part of the project, but it would not necessarily stay a state highway layout. So that's something we should be prepared to talk about taking as a public way.
Is Nightingale public or private?
State-owned, I think at some point the state built it as part of the,
Nightingale's public, right? Is Nightingale public?
Public, isn't it?
I don't know. Let me check.
I think some of the other ones up Deseret, I think
Yeah,
those
those
are
are private, but Nightingale itself, I'm not, let me check.
Yeah, that's fine. Anybody else have any questions or comments about this configuration? I'm gonna make a couple comments.
Okay.
I really like the single lane roundabout at Nightingale. I really like the single lane going from there to Belmont Circle. I especially like the single lane coming into Belmont Circle because the 2 lanes coming into Belmont Circle causes me a heart attack every time I have to do it. So I think those are great local improvements. I like the separation of the regional and local. I think it helps facilitate both. So I kind of like this configuration.
Can I just ask one more
Sure.
question? The roundabout, is that still under review? Is there the possibility that will change to a signalized intersection, or is the roundabout set?
The roundabout is set, so the signalized intersection does not meet warrants at this location.
Okay, and this will directly go, there'll be a direct access from the Bourne Scenic Park into the roundabout, a direct access from Nightingale into the roundabout, and then Scenic Highway.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions? Anybody in the audience?
Right, though, now, is it eliminates you having, if you're coming out of that gas station, you have to go,
in the left lane to go up and around, yeah.
no, you have to go right, then you have to go left, and then you have to turn around and come back. But now, people have access in and out
Yep.
without having to head down Scenic,
Uh,
right?
There's a median, there's a median,
Yeah, it's a
right?
great
Oh,
separation.
so there's medians still there?
But
So, like
so if you're-
currently
if
at
you're in
that
the
gas station.
if you're in the Save-On Mart,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, you would take a right. So if you wanted to go back to Belmont Circle,
Yeah.
correct.
right, so you would exit the Save-On Mart, you would enter
But-
the roundabout and then just,
Right.
right.
Now, the median's there, now you have to go up. If you go into Nightingale, a lot of people just do
Right.
you see them, they just
Yeah.
go in, they do the UE, and they come
Right.
back out. This is far safer,
Yes.
having the roundabout,
Right.
instead of,
But you still,
Pulling
you
U's
can't
in
turn you can't turn left directly out.
It'll still be a right turn only.
It's still a right turn.
It's
Right
still
turn
gonna be a
only
right
out
turn
there.
only. You're still gonna keep the
not
median
eliminating the
in
median.
there.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's good. Because sometimes I'm tempted to go up to Scenic Park and take a right and take a left at the
Oh,
light
yeah.
to come
Yeah,
back
yeah,
in,
yeah, yeah.
because, yeah. Or I just go to Market Basket, so I have to eliminate it. All right,
It's good
anybody
food at
else
that
have
gas
questions
station.
on this intersection? All right, we can moving right along.
Okay. Okay. So the Bourne South interchange, this is a variation of a traditional diamond interchange. So there are 4 new ramps introduced. There's some things I wanted to highlight, is the new dog bone, which replaces the rotary, some improvements at Veterans Way, a new frontage road for access management to the businesses. It also facilitates this new southbound on-ramp to Route 28. And then also a new roundabout at the Upper Cape Technical School. In addition to the highway geometry, it's a little hard to tell on the screen, but everything in beige is new shared use path. So coming off the bridge, there are desired lines to access the Canal Access Road. So you would kind of weave down here and enter the Canal Access Road. We've made improvements along Trowbridge Road, along Frontage Road, and then the shared use path does connect to the Upper Cape Technical School, and then also along Sandwich Lower that connects to the Canal Service Road. So, significant improvements to the multimodal combinations due to this configuration. Zooming into the dog bone, so the rotary is eliminated and it's replaced with a single lane dog bone, which provides access to the 4 new ramps that I previously discussed. The proposed overpass significantly improves operations, again with that theme separating regional and local traffic. And then the efficiency of the dog bone processes traffic and it reduces queues so that they do not extend onto the main line. This is a rendering of the dog bone. So here you're looking south down 28, so Falmouth is way down in the distance. You can see the dog bone here. You can see the 4 ramps, so this is the southbound off-ramp. This is the frontage road, and you can see the southbound on-ramp here. This is the northbound off-ramp, and then right here is the northbound on-ramp if you were going to go over the canal. So looking at the improvements to Trowbridge Road at Veterans Road, so what we've done at Veterans Way, we've really reduced the intersection width. We've made this right in, right out to eliminate wrong way crashes. We've also reduced the crosswalk width by 50%, making it safer for peds and bikes. And currently Veterans Way is used as a cut through. So people coming off the bridge enter the rotary. So instead of going left, if you wanted to go to Sandwich eastbound, you would take a right, go up Veterans, take Sandwich lower, and then go eastbound. Now because of the improvements, one, because of the eastbound off-ramp on Bourne North, and what we've done at the dog bone, people that want to take Sandwich eastbound will actually enter the dog bone and go left. So it should reduce congestion and will have much lower volumes and be a less desirable route. In addition, I just want to call out, we've had coordination with the town and the state police barracks to provide them 360-degree access. Currently, they have 3 egresses to the property. Because of the new configuration, we are reducing this to 1 driveway right here, but we are making a open cut in the median. So if you think about it, they have access in the dog bone where they can access all 4 ramps, so they can go north and south. They can go east-west along Trowbridge, and so really providing them 360-degree access. So the Sandwich Road at Upper Cape Technical School, before I get into the slide, this is something that we heard strongly from the community. It was really a safety issue of the existing configuration, and we did a lot of work, one, realigning Trowbridge and Sandwich Upper to make this work. The grades were challenging, but we are providing a roundabout here. With the realigned driveway for Sandwich Road, it does improve sightlines in all directions. And then the new interchange configuration will reduce congestion and the number of vehicles using Upper Sandwich. The roundabout provides operational and safety benefits, and it eliminates the need for police, in the afternoon when teachers and students exit the school. And I just also want to, bring to your attention again, everything in beige is a shared use path. So we are providing ADA shared use path up to the school, so students can, walk or bike to school, and then they can access either the bridge or the canal. I think this is a really good rendering showing what those sightlines and highway geometry improvements we did. So there's that existing hill. So we cut some of that hill out, and you can kind of see it's now a straight sightline instead of curving around. So you can see the dog bone here. This is the southbound main line. This is the northbound main line. This is the new northbound on-ramp. And then in the distance is the new roundabout at the Upper Cape Technical School. So really improved sightlines looking east. And then this is another rendering. This is looking southeast. So you can see the roundabout. This is accessing Sandwich Road lower. This is Sandwich Road continuing east. And then this is Sandwich turning into Trowbridge, accessing the new dog bone. Before I turn it over to Jill, are there any questions about?
Can we go back one or two slides? What I would like to see is the frontage road. I don't know if you had a rendering, because my thing is, if you go from the dog bone and then you come out by Cumberland Farms, go by the funeral home, Jeff Battles, the dealerships, and then you get up a little bit further, there's a car wash presently that's there. Couple of things. A, have you spoken to the business owners that own property along these spurs? Because it may be easier to get in and out, but at the same time, you may be hurting people's businesses along the way because you're taking direct access off of MacArthur Boulevard, which is what you presently have.
Yeah, I don't think we've, from the project team's perspective, I don't think we've met directly with any of the property owners there. I can't speak towards District 5 if they've had any open discussions with those business owners based off of state highway access issues. But I will say that the frontage road is sort of a key component of our recommended interchange, and it was a component of the other interchange that we were investigating on Bourne South, which was the single point urban interchange. The frontage road was consistent among both those options, and the reason why the frontage road is so important is because it allows us to take those business accesses off the main line of the highway. In this case, with we have the southbound on-ramp that's sort of in the same vicinity of the frontage road, and that's sort of blocking access from the businesses to the main line. We can't have the businesses have curb cuts into the southbound on-ramp. And in the case of the Atlantic Car Wash, I don't know if we have the ability to zoom in, but there's still acceleration lane taper right here. So the curb cut going from Atlantic Car Wash going into the main line, it was just too close to that acceleration spot for cars getting up to highway speeds for us to be able to connect them back into the main line. So the frontage road is a really key component to allow the southbound on-ramp to access into the main line here.
I understand from a safety perspective, but I'm just wondering if you're going to be eliminating, the business has a chance of making the most amount of money out of it, and you're hurting them, is there any way the state can reimburse them for any lost revenue? Because sometimes a dead end road, but when you're taking something away, because right now they're on a made thoroughfare, you know, going down MacArthur Boulevard. So that gives you the most exposure for your businesses. So if you're eliminating that, I wonder if there's a way of help reimbursing the businesses for the possible lost revenue in the future. And it may end up pushing Cumberland Farms out of that site altogether if they can't maximize, you know, that property to the fullest extent.
So, based off of, you know, our right-of-way or property requirements, Mass DOT does not have the ability to reimburse any sort of lost revenue. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to do that. But, you know, I think that if we need to have more specific outreach with those business owners, we're happy to do so. You know, we could coordinate with the town on that. Definitely, those would probably be worthwhile discussions. But in terms of, you know, access to sort of the main line, we do have the southbound on-ramp connected to the frontage road. So in terms of like, I mean, it's conjecture at that point, so I won't make any guesses, but it, you know, the southbound on-ramp is right there, and it is a component of the frontage road for a short distance of time. So I think the hope is that it wouldn't detract too much from business traffic or traffic going by the businesses, because it is not much of a detour.
I think communication and buy-in with those property owners will be key.
Yeah.
You know, Jessica, there's going to be, there'll be benefits, yes, but there may be some detriments as well, and I think both need to be weighed out.
I can understand what you're saying, because, you know, if someone's coming over the bridge, they're just flying over it, they're
Yeah.
zipping right past those businesses
Yeah.
without access. So they would have to say, okay, I've got to get off this ramp if I want to access those businesses, and that might be a missed, you know?
And I, you know, on the
Right. I think that's the concern, right?
yeah, definitely, definitely hear
Because
the
now,
concerns.
you know, we zip over the bridge and get around the rotary, and we have access, direct access from MacArthur Boulevard to any one of those businesses.
Yeah.
But here, you don't have access until you hit, what, almost to, way down across from the dump, right?
Oh, you're talking about like the turnaround area or?
Yeah, so how far down does the frontage road go?
It goes to about I think it's the Atlantic Car
So
Wash.
it ties into the car wash, so the next business, I believe it's
RNA.
a RV or truck, would have access. But, you know, to your point, the access off of 28 now, it's really an access management safety issue. You know, for the state, we are providing bi-directional access on frontage road. So, you know, now, if you access those businesses, you have to go to Route 28 southbound. Now you don't have to, you can go back to Trowbridge North, and now you can go east-west, north-south.
I see what you're saying.
And another perspective too is, you know, today in the existing conditions, you know, traffic is just coming off of the Bourne Rotary. All the traffic, all the mainline traffic has to go through Bourne Rotary. In this instance, if you want to come off the Bourne Bridge and just keep going south,
Right.
you don't have to go
Yeah.
through an intersection anymore. You're just going to keep on going. So, like, the
That-
type of the road is going to be very different.
That's actually a huge concern of mine, because there is no gateway. There is no gateway to MacArthur Boulevard. So MacArthur Boulevard is not a limited access highway, even though it's got like limited access signs. It is not a limited access highway. It is, all the connections are at grade, multiple driveways, multiple things. I am really concerned about people coming over the bridge going 60, 65 miles an hour, and all of a sudden we're in a situation where there's businesses and people trying to come in and go out without a lot of deceleration and acceleration lanes. There's only like 3 or 4, maybe 5 now that have acceleration, deceleration. So the frontage road, big concern is we create another economic wasteland like the Bourne Bridge approach, where you had vibrant businesses and all of a sudden they lost their traffic, and there's not good traffic. Now, I think the southbound ramp has changed since the original way. You've kind of added it. I mean, it is making a little sense, and I think at the open house,
Right, it was
that
coming
it
from.
was said by someone that the exact place that that's going to be is going to be kind of coordinated with Cumberland Farms so that they can maybe come directly across or something, because you're going to have to want to be careful that how the ins and outs of Cumberland Farms connect with that southbound ramp. So this is not kind of cast in concrete quite yet, but so I'm concerned about that. The other thing is in the comparison of recommended versus not recommended for the Atlantic Car Wash, the difference in whatever that was number, I don't have it in my head right now, was less chance of wrong way. There wasn't really anything talked about, I don't think, in that comparison about the acceleration, deceleration. So I think the frontage road has improved a little bit, the way the southbound ramp is making it a little bit easier to get back on the highway. I mean, I would have liked it further up, but I can kind of live with this. But I am very concerned about this issue of how are we going to let people know that they're coming off a limited access highway and bridge and coming into an area, I think major, I don't know what you call it, major arterial highway, I don't know what the exact terminology is, but we're gonna have to do something to slow them down, because the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit there is, it can't get much higher than that, because, I mean, there's things that you have to do coming in one direction, change direction, move over lanes to be able to get into Falmouth Toyota, you know, that are, if people are going 65, it's not gonna happen.
And one other thing, once you finish.
No, go ahead.
Go over the Sagamore Bridge right now, and you're going onto the main lane. On the right-hand side, there's a park and ride at the bottom of the ramp, you know, where the old Fenways and stuff is. Anybody that comes up from Mashpee or Falmouth and gets towards the state police barracks in the Rotary, there's no park and ride over there at all, or a slash bus station. And I think we while we're doing this rendering, we're missing that, because there's a lot of undeveloped property in this generic area, and you may be able to get cars that come out of North Falmouth, and up into Bourne that would use that park and ride and get on the bus and then go north, because right now the only thing you have is you have a bus station that's part of a convenience store, you know, over in that one corner. If we end up somehow getting, for planning purposes, a park and ride over in that general area, you'll be getting more cars off the road, because the cars can go into the park and ride, they get on the bus. So I think, like I said, Sagamore Beach has always been taken care of over the years, or since the flyover was put in. But I think we're missing the boat on this side over here of the chance of getting and doing something similar to keep these cars off the road, and get them on some sort of public transportation. So some sort of a park and ride, a multimodal over there. Why we're doing this, maybe good planning, to see if it is possible. The other thing is the Upper Cape. If you can go to the Upper Cape text slide.
Did I miss it?
Keep going down.
Down?
Yeah.
Where are we?
I want to thank you for getting the shared ute path over, proposed for that area, because there's a lot of kids that walk down, walk down the hill and walk on the Sandwich Road after school, and at least now you're getting those kids and them off, and they can have a safe access going back towards the bridge, and so I appreciate that, because that intersection has been a major problem for a long time, vehicles and pedestrians, and so by looking into fixing this, I think it would be a good thing. It would be a big win all the way around for everybody involved.
Agree.
A couple of things I like about this. I like the dog bone. And I like the dog bone because one of the things you see now in the afternoon, like at 3 o'clock, there's no place for people to go. The Rotary just gets completely jammed because there's not enough space for people to line up, and there's too many lanes. I mean, there are things that are good about the new Rotary. I don't want to, but if you try to go through there like 3 o'clock, forget it. It's total gridlock.
Or if there's a disabled vehicle and, like tonight, this would have helped tonight.
So.
It was jammed in all directions.
But the
Every
dog
decision.
bone helps that stacking, and the single lane rotaries, I think, also mean you get in the rotary and you're not competing with trying to change lanes in the rotary. So I do like that. I like the Upper Cape thing. In my wish list, I'd like to see us somehow connect to Gallo Arena, because that's another area that is close there. I mean, it seems like it's far, but it's so integral to that whole intersection and how people live and recreate that. And it's, I think there might be some ways to do it. I think there's an old bike path that is kind of a dirt road or something, so, yeah, so I feel slightly better about the frontage road where it is, but I am really worried about the gateway aspect of that highway traffic coming into this really commercial. It is Buzzards Bay and MacArthur Boulevard are the commercial areas of Bourne, so the regional people have to know they're still in the local traffic spin.
Right.
Anybody else, anyone in the audience have anything to say, Marlene?
I don't really want to raise this issue, but I want the board to think about if anyone here has strong feelings about the Cape Cod shrubs, the existing shrubs that spell Cape Cod. Those are not proposed to be replaced.
Or moved.
Or moved or saved. So it's something that I just don't want anyone to be surprised by or
Was
to.
that contracted or was that donated?
It was Mass Highway. It was done as part of a change. It was Kitty Dukakis. This is the one who got, who pushed that with Mike
But
Dukakis.
doesn't Agrillo maintain it?
But he bought the naming rights, or pays the naming rights in order to mow and maintain. But that was a state project.
It was?
So I just don't want it to become, problem
A
later.
question, actually, there's been, I think that many people feel that having that mound creates sightline difficulties, so people can't really tell what's going on, that it's actually an impediment, because you can't see what's going on. It's all.
True, but
yeah.
it's a statement.
Well, we'll have to
When you
think
come
about
over the
another
bridge.
gateway statement, a flat gateway statement or something.
I will say that, landscape architecture is something we're really thinking about. We have a team of landscape architects on board to, rethink the program area, and, visual impacts is something that is, at the forefront of our minds. We need to consider it. So that's something that's going to be baked into our project development process, as we move forward. Not just what kind of plans do we do, but how do we configure the grading to make sure that, we're fitting, the landscape, or considering, the context of the site, and not just plopping, transportation infrastructure onto, the project limits.
John, you have to come up to the podium so people can hear you. Introduce yourself.
So my name is John York. I'm a resident of the town. So the landscape question is really interesting. The renderings show open grassland. I'm not sure that's actually what that space is going to be. I'm not sure if that's been thought about yet. And so I'm not asking you to have answers to the questions I'm asking, but I'm asking you to ask the landscape architects and the community these questions and take their answers. Landscape architecture to me is something that should be, I think the whole project should be public driven, but especially the landscape architecture. Maybe it turns out you got some landscape architects who will come up with an idea that everyone loves, but that obviously you want some public input there. The question I have when I look at that, what's the management plan for how many acres of grassland can I see in that image right there? 20? So you don't have to answer that question. That's a rhetorical statement. Are those going to be fenced off or not? There's shared use paths running right along the edge of them around the donut there. So can I ride my bike and just walk up there and play ultimate frisbee with my friends on that field? No, I'm serious. This is a real question to ask. So is there a management plan for that area? And Or are you thinking about it, and as you do, I think you want to send out the draft to the public and say, this is where we think it's going, what do you guys think? And go back and forth on that one, because I know in many ways I can see the best thing would be to make sure nobody goes there. But then you're creating this whole like attractive nuisance or something. I don't think it's a nuisance, I think, but it is a big part of the resource of our town. And a lot of that area was viewed as, at some times, as potential for commercial development and all sorts of other things. Obviously, it isn't now. So just thoughts on that.
So I think those are some really good points. You know, these are renderings and this is a process. You know, we have to figure out where the main line was going. We have to figure out, you know, what interchange, and we have to figure out what the intersection controls are. You know, what you're not seeing in the renderings is the stormwater detention basins for stormwater management. Sorry. So in the grass area would be some detention basins that are needed for stormwater treatment. To your point, you know, the landscape would be you know, trees, meadows, and stuff like that. And I think your point about, you know, involving the community when it comes to what this area does look like, you know, where the roads are is one thing, but what does it look like in 20, 30 years? I think it's a great point, but, you know, it's a process and we'll get there.
Thanks. So because of time,
Yeah,
now might be a good time to go to the Sagamore interchanges.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Jill McLaughlin from Stantec, and I just wanted to say lots of great questions. I was really enjoying the interaction on the Bourne presentation. So I am going to switch now to the Sagamore crossing. And the image shown on the screen is the recommended design for the Sagamore crossing. And just to help orientate folks, similar to the Bourne, we do jump around a little bit with north orientation, just trying to fit the images best on the graphics. So in the middle of the screen is the canal. To the right is Off Cape, or points to the north, the northern interchange, and to the left is the south, or on Cape side. So first we're going to start off by looking at the northern interchange alternative. And what we're seeing for the biggest difference with the recommended design over the existing condition for the northern interchange design is the location of the Route 6 westbound off-ramp that heads to points east on Scenic Highway. So the off-ramp today is located over by the Park and Ride, and what we're seeing as we're evaluating traffic, especially along Scenic Highway, is that traffic coming off of that ramp turning left onto State Road is resulting in a lot of congestion in this area because they have to come off the ramp and head over a couple of lanes to make that left turn. So with this alternative, we're relocating that Route 6 westbound off-ramp over by the loop ramp, so that traffic is now going to come directly to State Road. And then anyone heading north on State Road from there would just turn left at a signalized intersection. We'll still have a segment to allow traffic to come back to the Canal Street, Meeting House Lane, Scenic Highway intersection to head east as well. But this really helps eliminate the congestion that we were seeing on the Scenic Highway area.
So where that ramp comes off is going to be a signalized intersection. It's going to be a signal, so, because it's very close to the northbound on-ramp, so that's like a major, like,
Yes.
left turn, right turn.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
can do, okay.
Yep, correct.
All right.
And I do have a graphic later that shows it a little bit closer to help people see it a little bit better too. So this next image here is just a rendering of what that proposed design is going to be. And so now we're looking more towards the north. So often the distance is looking towards Boston, and the canal is more in the bottom left corner of the screen, or just behind the bottom left corner of the screen. Next we're going to be taking a look at just the different intersection controls, or major intersection controls, throughout the northern interchange. And I'm going to be starting at the Scenic Highway Route 6 eastbound Church Lane intersection. And then as we go through, I'm going to move east along Scenic Highway and then jump up to the State Road intersection. So this first graphic here is the Scenic Highway Route 6 eastbound on-ramp and Church Lane intersection. And there are two big differences with this design over the existing condition. So one is that we're adding a second left turn lane to improve storage for left turning vehicles heading on to the Route 6 eastbound on-ramp to go up and over the canal on Cape. And then the other change is the extension of the third Route 6 westbound lane. And this is really just to help give especially the heavier vehicles more time to get up to speed before they're merging in with that second lane. This is another area where we're seeing some congestion, especially if the heavier vehicles are coming from a stop condition at the signalized intersection. So for operations, we're seeing that the delays with these improvements are similar or lower than the existing condition. And we're also anticipating shorter queues. And again, the addition of that second left turn lane for Route 6, or sorry, for Scenic Highway westbound helps to contain all of the storage for left turning vehicles within that area. So now we're going to slide over to the Route 3 southbound off-ramp intersection with Scenic Highway. And so at this intersection, what we're seeing for differences is the addition of a second lane on Scenic Highway in both the eastbound and westbound directions. Sorry, I've lost the pointer. Okay, see it now, sorry. So a second lane in both the eastbound or second lane for the eastbound direction, third lane for the westbound direction. And then for the Route 3 southbound off-ramp, we're generally maintaining the same configuration that's out there today, except that we are extending the storage lengths for the left and right turns. So with these improvements, we're seeing that the delays and queues are reduced, and we're also seeing a significant improvement in the operations of the Route 3 southbound off-ramp.
Can you go back to the previous slide?
Sure.
I just have a question now. So you're directing from more regional traffic from the Bourne Bridge North intersection to come this way on Scenic Highway to go south on Route 6. So you have a single turning, exit lane for getting on that Route 6 eastbound lane. But now you have two lanes coming across. So that lane, which is going to have more regional traffic, is going to be merging into two lanes they're going to have to wait for those two lanes, I guess, when they're...
Yes, correct. And we're actually continuing development further for this area now. And one thing that we're looking at is providing two right turn lanes for this traffic here. And because we're also adding pedestrian accommodations here, this would be signalized so that we can stop traffic to safely cross bicyclists or pedestrians across here. And so not only does that second lane help us process more traffic through there, but it also helps us process more if there is a stop condition, and then when they get the green light, more
so
traffic
the people
can go
coming
through.
up and taking a left will have a green light to do, and then, which would be different than the people coming.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
That makes
exactly.
sense then. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so this is a rendering here for the Sagamore North interchange, kind of looking along that Scenic Highway corridor again. This is looking south now, so this is Church Lane sweeping through here, and this is the eastbound on-ramp, so this shows that ramp coming up and over the canal. Okay, so the next intersection is the State Road Scenic Highway.
Just back up one second.
Sure.
So, right now, when you're coming down Route 3, it goes down to one lane, so that those two lanes merge onto the bridge. But you're gonna have two lanes coming down Route 3, and then one lane coming, like a merge lane on the bridge, right?
Correct.
So that'll help relieve some of that southbound traffic, right?
Yes, yep, correct.
Thank you. That was it.
Okay, so the next intersection is the State Road Scenic Highway Canal Street Meeting House Lane intersection. So currently today this is a signalized intersection. And this is the one that's over by the McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, and also the Canal Street is where you access the park and ride. So what we're proposing is to split this up into two separate intersections, and right now we're showing the two roundabouts for this location. So for the roundabouts, generally they will be single lane roundabouts in all directions, except that we will have the Scenic Highway to State Road northbound segment be 2-lane portion. And again, I have lost the mouse, so I apologize. It keeps, I keep losing it. Okay, here we go. So the scenic highway eastbound to State Road northbound movement would be the 2-lane segment of the roundabout. And then when we're looking at the approaches coming up to the roundabouts for the Meeting House to State Road northbound traffic, we have a right turn lane. And for State Road southbound traffic coming to Scenic Highway, we're also providing a right turn lane. So as I mentioned earlier, with the relocation of the Route 6 westbound off-ramp to State Road, so moving it away from the park and ride over to State Road, we are seeing the elimination of the congestion from that weave in this area. And we are seeing also that by splitting this up into 2 separate intersections that we have improved operations at this location. So now we're moving north onto State Road, and so this is the State Road Route 3 northbound on-ramp and the new Route 6 westbound off-ramp intersection. So we are proposing a signal at this intersection, and currently we're showing 2 left turn lanes, but we are evaluating the possibility of reducing that to a single left turn lane. So as we develop or dive deeper into the traffic modeling, we are seeing that even with making that a single left turn lane, we're only seeing a slight increase in delays and queues with the installation of the traffic signal and the traffic from the Route 6 westbound off-ramp, and it is operating within acceptable limits. Okay, and then this is just another rendering of the Sagamore North interchange area. So the park and ride is in the left corner here, and these are the loop ramps here. So the State Road intersection that we were looking at just falls off the screen here. Okay.
Before we go on,
Yes.
does anybody have any comments about the Sagamore North? John?
Is any select board first?
Anybody? No, go ahead.
Okay.
You have to go.
I have to-
Yeah.
Sorry,
No, don't worry.
John York, resident of the town. So in the north intersection, so that is part of a state bicycle route. In fact, our only state-numbered bicycle route in Massachusetts.
Can you go to the slide 38? So
Yeah, could we go back to
slide
the-
38 is the one I think that has that
Yeah,
detail.
actually, if you go to the one that shows the intersection, and you're starting here. So this is the northern part of the Sagamore interchange. You can see Route 3 on the left and Route 3A, which is also called State Road, going through the middle of that slide. And so Route 3A is also Massachusetts Bicycle Route 1. It runs from Boston to Provincetown. Once you get over the Sagamore Bridge on the Cape, it has a branch that goes down to Woods Hole. I would note that it was created in memory of a woman who was killed because she was sideswiped by a motor vehicle riding on the side of the roadway. The original thought was to create an off-road bicycle path from Boston to Cape Cod. The legislature even put that money in the transportation bond that year, but Mass DOT saw fit to do other things with it. And instead, they created an on-the-road route in memory of a woman who was killed riding her bicycle on the road. So that is the route right there. It's called the Claire Saltonstall Memorial Bikeway. And so when I look at this project, I'm looking at how does Mass DOT recognize the existence of that bikeway when they're rebuilding it. And so if I'm coming south on Route 3A, State Road there, on my bicycle, headed to go over the Sagamore Bridge, the first thing I come to is pretty darn confusing, because if I stay over on the right side of the road like a good bicyclist, I'm going to end up northbound on Route 3. And then so I've got to cross that off Route 3 on-ramp that's coming past me, but there's a signalized intersection, which is a good thing that there's a signal there, but there needs to be something to help, like a crosswalk on the on-ramp, which I've never seen in my life for obvious reasons. It's a crazy thing to do, but you would need that there. And then once you get across that, still headed south, now I'm faced, on my right is merging an off-ramp that doesn't have a signal that's coming off of a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit bridge. And when you're driving highway speeds and you get to an off-ramp, 40 miles an hour feels slow. So, and they only have a yield sign. And I'm on my bicycle facing 40-mile-an-hour cars. And it's not a road that I can get straight across because it's merging and I got to go like 100 feet at a diagonal, or maybe 200, depending upon the angle, across that traffic. And then I'm past that part of the intersection. So you can go to the previous slide that shows the two roundabouts.
Sure.
Okay, so now I'm approaching from the top of this slide, still going south on bicycle Route 1. And it's hard for me to see from here where I'm even going to be facing, but I'll stay at the microphone. So I'm coming down there, and there's a crosswalk that I'm trying to get to that's the other side of that rotary. And no bike lane or path to get me there that I can see. And then I'm going to go across the two different directions of the people going from and getting on the roundabout. So I'm guessing there's going to be a hawk type signal there. That's kind of like around the Belmont Rotary. And then I finally make it across to the other side of Scenic Highway, and it looks like there's shared use paths. There's going to need to be some good direction wayfinding signs there, because from standing there and looking at the Sagamore Bridge, which I'm going to be able to see, where I go, what direction I go, and where the bike routes go is not towards the bridge. It's not obvious. And maybe I have my choice of going left there and going down sort of Canal Street and under the bridge and up, or going right there along Scenic Highway under the overpass and back around that way. So I don't see how this project has taken into account Massachusetts Bicycle Route 1 in that area.
Is the yellow here, is that shared use or sidewalk?
No, the sandy color,
It's sand covered.
lighter, yep, the
sandy color.
Yeah.
Yep. So just to kind of respond to John's question, so we had actually talked at the open house in length about this, and we had heard from other residents about the interest in the potential extension of the shared use path along State Road. So the current design ends it at Homestead, but we are actively looking into what does it mean if we were to continue it to Fieldwood Drive, or if we were to continue it north to Ocean Pines Drive to try to pick up more population for the people that live in the area. So that is something that we're currently investigating. Another addition is just providing sort of a bike box or accommodations for a bike to cross at the signalized intersection and to get into that shared use path. So if they are concerned with traveling down to the roundabout and getting into the shared use path at the roundabout area, they will have the option to cross at this location as well.
Extend the shared use pass down to Ocean Pines Drive would be a huge benefit, because if you can get down to Ocean Pines Drive and then make the right and just go up through Ocean Pines Drive all the way up, now you're on Old Plymouth Road, now you're in the heart, almost into the heart of Sagamore Beach. So I think it'd be a huge benefit for that little bit more work over in that area.
That'd be great.
Thanks. And we still have, just jumping in for a moment here, we still have a lot to get through, so I think at this point, it might be better to save all the
Well,
questions
we're going to
until
the
end.
Sagamore South now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, if we could, maybe we could get through the rest of the presentation and save questions for the end from there, if that's okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Agenda after, don't we?
Okay, Sagamore South. So the image on the screen now, we're twisted again. So north is on the right, south is on the left, and this is the Sagamore South interchange. So we're seeing three big differences over the existing condition with the Sagamore South interchange recommend design. So the first is the addition of a westbound, or the relocation of the Route 6 westbound off-ramp. So that's the ramp that currently, or on-ramp, I'm sorry, that's the ramp that currently comes on up by the former Christmas Tree Shops Plaza to bring people up and over the canal. So with that, we're proposing to relocate that ramp off of the Mid-Cape Connector. So traffic will now come down Mid-Cape Connector to the new ramp that's going to run under Route 6 and come up to grade roughly where Cranberry Highway is. The other change that this recommended design proposes is the extension of Cranberry Highway to meet Factory Outlet Way, so that we have connectivity between the east and west sides of the neighborhoods in those areas, especially considering the proximity to the Adams Street and Marconi neighborhoods relative to Market Basket. So now we're making it easier for residents to be able to have more direct access to the Market Basket and vice versa. The other modification is the addition of a connector road between Cranberry Highway and Sandwich Road. So that connector road is going to help us with the separation of the regional traffic, especially when we're looking at the Route 6 westbound off-ramp traffic. So traffic coming off of the Route 6 westbound can now come straight across to the connector road and access Sandwich Road and continue to the points west. Versus without that, we would be looking at traffic coming through Factory Outlet Way, down Mid-Cape Connector, and then over to Sandwich Road. So more of a zigzag with that movement. So this is a rendering of that alternative. So now we've twisted the view. So north is on the horizon and south is closest to us. And the loop ramp that's towards the bottom of the screen shows the new Route 6 westbound on-ramp, or the relocated Route 6 westbound on-ramp. So again, that's going to come under Route 6. And then once we get under Route 6, we're going to come up to grade, and about where Cranberry Highway is where we would tie back into the new main line. Okay. So similar to the north, I am going to run through the different interchanges really quick just to show what the differences are between the existing and recommended design. And we're going to start on Sandwich Road. So we'll start on Sandwich Road, run east on Sandwich Road, hitting the major intersection points, and then we'll jump up to the Factory Outlet Way and Cranberry Highway corridor. So this is the Sandwich Road and Mid-Cape Connector intersection. And what we're doing along Sandwich Road from just west of Adams Street all the way through to Autumn's Way is we're adding a second westbound lane on Sandwich Road. So that's the big change that we're going to see at this intersection here, is the addition of that second westbound travel lane. So with the added westbound lane, we do see a reduction in delays and queues on Sandwich Road. And we also have confirmed that along Mid-Cape Connector, traffic coming down Mid-Cape Connector to the intersection isn't going to back up or impact the traffic at the Factory Outlet Way intersection. So now we're sliding over to the east or right along Sandwich Road, and we're at the new Sandwich Connector Road and Sandwich Road intersection. So the Sandwich Connector Road is actually going to occupy the same place as Route 6 does today. The difference with this here is instead of going up and over Sandwich Road, it's going to dive down and meet at grade with Sandwich Road at this new intersection. Again, we're still carrying that second lane along Sandwich Road westbound to help with processing traffic. And for the connector road approach, we're going to have a single lane coming from Cranberry Highway. And as we come into this intersection, that lane's going to split for left and right turning traffic. Currently, we're showing a double left turn lane, but this might be an area where we see a change in the future. It is looking like we just need a single right turn lane here. So that may be a change that we see coming soon. For operations, we're seeing delays in the queues are considerably less than what they are at the Mid-Cape Connector intersection, which operates within acceptable limits. So this interchange or intersection is also operating within acceptable limits. Okay, and the last intersection on Sandwich Road is the Adams Street intersection. So at this point, we're generally back to the existing cross-section where we have one lane in each direction. And in terms of operations, we are seeing improvements because of the relocation of that Route 6 westbound on-ramp to come off of Mid-Cape Connector. Right, now we're jumping up to the Factory Outlet Way and Cranberry Highway corridor. So this is the Factory Outlet Way and Mid-Cape Connector intersection. We're not seeing any changes here. This is going to be similar to the existing condition. We are seeing an increase in delays in queues at this intersection because of the increase in volumes with now connecting Cranberry Highway to Factory Outlet Way, but it is still operating within acceptable limits. Okay, now we're sliding over to the east or right a little bit and looking at the two driveways for Market Basket. So the driveway on the left is going to be designed as a right-in, right-out driveway, and that's because of the installation of the median along Factory Outlet Way. And then over on the right, we're proposing a roundabout for that second driveway. The roundabout's going to be a single-lane roundabout, and all the approaches are also going to be single-lane. For operations, we're seeing that all approaches have acceptable delays and operate under capacity. And another thing we look at is the queues when we have two roundabouts close to each other. So the next slide we're going to see is just on the other side of Route 6 is the Route 6 westbound off-ramp intersection with Cranberry Highway, where we have another roundabout. And these two are in close proximity, but we are seeing with the traffic modeling that any delays at this roundabout do not back up into the next roundabout.
Right now, Market Basket, when you go in, that's considered a driveway, so Market Basket has to plow it and sand it and everything else. Post-construction, is this now gonna become a MassDOT maintained road?
Yes, correct. Okay. So this is just another rendering of the area, so you can see the roundabout, the roundabout at the Market Basket driveway that we were just looking at in proximity to Route 6. This is Mid-Cape Connector running along here, and Sandwich Road is running off in the distance. Okay, so now we're on the other side of the main line, and you can see just to the edge of the image the roundabout that was at the Market Basket driveway, just so you get a better sense of the proximity for these two. So this is the Route 6 westbound off-ramp, Cranberry Highway, and Sandwich Connector Road intersection. So here again, we're proposing a single-lane roundabout, and we do have a slip right turn lane for traffic coming off of the Route 6 westbound off-ramp. In terms of operations, we are seeing that for eastbound traffic along Cranberry Highway, and so that's left to right on the screen. And for the Route 6 westbound off-ramp traffic, they're operating with minimal delays. For the Cranberry Highway westbound traffic, so that's right to left on the screen, we are seeing slightly higher delays and queues for that traffic, but it's still operating under capacity. Okay, and last we have the Cranberry Highway and Adams Street intersection. So at this intersection, we're maintaining the one-way flow on Adams Street and a single lane coming out of Adams Street. Cranberry Highway will be one lane in each direction, and we're adding a left turn lane for traffic from Cranberry Highway turning left onto the southern portion of Adams Street. Similar to what we saw at the Adams Street and Sandwich Road intersection, we're seeing a reduction in delays and queues because of the relocation of the Route 6 westbound on-ramp at this location as well. And then this is just another rendering showing that design. So we're south looking north. So this is the Market Basket roundabout. This is the new Route 6 westbound off-ramp, Cranberry Highway and Sandwich Connector Road intersection. And that's it.
For informational purposes only, are you aware that over at the by Cranberry Highway, right with the Christmas tree shop and all the property below it, there's a proposed 40B for 3 buildings that are roughly 160 units?
Yes, and we are coordinating with them. We've received, MassDOT's received information, I believe, from the town and also the property owners for that of what their future designs may be, and we'll be coordinating with them or continuing coordination with them, especially as it relates to their driveways and how they work with what we're proposing for Cranberry Highway and Sandwich Road.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Do you have something you want to say before we do questions, or you want to?
Oh, no, I was just going to jump in if there was any additional discussion on the Turtle Rock property. That's all.
Any questions on South Sagamore? I think it looks good. I like the connection. I think it's going to help in the neighborhoods. which get really backed up now over there. They have like real traffic congestion, so it'll help.
If it's not gonna be in a future slide, have you identified how many residential or or commercial properties that will be taken for these projects?
Yeah, we're in the process of identifying all of the right-of-way needs for the project. I think in the environmental notification form from May of 2023, we noted what we think the right-of-way takings would be, with the current preliminary design we have. So that's the best number we have, is what's noted in that ENF, and that's available on our website.
Yep.
Did you say May of 2023?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so, is there anything you need from us? You want us to communicate with you about our feelings as a board? We'll have to deliberate on it, but is that something you'd be interested in?
That's a great question, loaded question. Definitely open to continuing, our collaboration
Yeah.
as we reach, or before we reach specific milestones in the project development process. But if there are things that you feel strongly about, definitely encourage you to submit formal correspondence to us. You can email me a letter of any of the things that you discussed today if you wanted to further sort of formalize your stance on any of those items. But definitely happy to continue to have these meetings. Marlene, also thank you for scheduling meetings over the summer with different town staff to sort of go through some of the finer details with the recommended interchanges. They were incredibly productive, and we certainly learned a lot. So thank you.
Well, you can see how things are evolving. I mean, it's hard to have patience, but we have to have patience. So, and as we talk about things, then they seem to get put into the mix and considered, and we're making progress, and we're just keeping our fingers crossed for funding.
Yeah, and things are going to start to pick up. Now that we've reached a point where we can talk about what our recommended interchanges are. Like now we've sort of defined what those most of the larger design parameters are, and now we're going to be moving towards a place where we can go out to procurement for the Sagamore Bridge in the next couple of years. So it sounds like it's kind of far away, but it's actually going to happen really fast. So do not be shy about providing us with any input, anything that comes to mind as it comes up. Just feel free to reach out, and we can schedule something if necessary.
Good. Anybody else have any comments, questions?
Have you exhausted all the funding sources right now? Possibly? I mean, without the mega?
We have not. So yeah, we do have complete funding for the Sagamore, but
Right.
There's still
No, I'm just talking
definitely
about Bourne.
options available for the Bourne that we continue to pursue. So again, we've yet to hear back on one of our grant applications, so we should hear back on that soon. We're also, like I said, working on getting additional Army Corps funds legislated through Congress. That's how we got $350 million for the Sagamore Bridge. We want to do the same with Bourne, and the president had committed previously up to $600 million for the overall program, both bridges. So we're hoping for another $250 million from that, and then, of course, anything we have left from our state bond cap.
I just want to say thank you, for coming
Thanks for
before.
coming down, everyone.
And
We appreciate
It's
it.
always a good time.
we have a 5-minute recess.
Thank you very much.
Can we have a 5-minute recess while they empty the room? Gotta use the bathroom.
Yep.
Thanks.
We're gonna have a brief recess while people depart. Stretch.
Still hot.
It's too hot.
Yeah, I can't make
too
tea,
hot.
and if I make tea in
I forgot about it. I was running around getting stuff done.
Well, if I make them in
and
that,
just
I can never do it. It's way too, it heats it too much.
Keeps it hot.
Are you looking for a copy of the slides? I can send you the morning. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, it's under here, I think. Is this it? Is it like a backpack?
Yeah.
I guess we can start moving on to item number 7. Special town meeting, January 6, 2025, article, motion, and recommendation.
Thank you. So, the original is in your pink folder there, and January 6th at 7 PM at the middle school gym is where we have it all set up to be posted.
Right.
The article is to purchase the property at 171 Clay Pond Road for any municipal purpose, including the construction of a new Southside Fire Station. And I have not had a chance to finish all of the draft explanation language, but that is something that I will add. And we are recommending that this be funded out of capital stabilization. And currently, we have $3,443,000 in capital stabilization. This request is for $1,750,000. That's the purchase price plus soft costs, plus demolition and disposal, plus some remove and replace of unsuitable material. And when I say unsuitable material, it's not contaminated material, it's just not structural fill. So it's dirt we have to take out and replace with structural fill for the foundation. According to our past practice, right now, we're anticipating using $345,000 from capital stabilization for the debt service for FY26. And our policy is to maintain 5 years of debt payment in the capital stabilization, which is the $1,525,000 that you see. So we would, after this special town meeting, so either in May or in the fall, we would be looking to transfer $176,000 back into the capital stabilization fund to maintain that 5 years of debt service. So we're comfortable with moving forward with this funding scheme. A January town meeting is difficult in the borrowing schedule. We're off schedule for borrowing purposes, and we don't feel like we're leaving the fund. We're not leaving the fund short. We'll easily be able to meet the 5-year policy.
It sounds like a good plan.
And it can be, and we can close on it quickly
Yeah.
if we use the capital stabilization.
So I do want to note for people here and people at home that this town meeting is going to be in the middle school gym. Middle school gym. Tell everyone you know, middle school gym. And the reason for that is the middle school musicale is going to be all set up on the stage of the auditorium and doing their practices on January 6th. And so we are going to be adaptable and do what we did in COVID and have the meeting in the gym.
And once you execute the warrant, we'll start making it that very clear.
Yes.
I just didn't want to do it until you voted.
Yes, that sounds good. Okay, so first you want a motion to us to approve the warrant.
It's in that consent agenda.
The warrant is on the consent agenda.
Okay.
I'd like to just, if there's any comments or questions about the article, the motion, I haven't really given you the explanation yet, but in any of your materials, if there's any questions or concerns that I can
Okay,
address.
So you want a motion to recommend approval of Article 1 for the purchase of 171 Clay Pond Road?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Anne Marie. And that is to use the capital stabilization fund as well, so.
That's correct.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Okay. And now, and then do we need the motion to just waive Charter Section 2-5C, which requires the motor handbook to be available no later than 15 days prior to any town meeting?
I would like you to
Waive it?
waive that just in case.
So move.
Second.
I may be able to have it official and online, but with all the holidays, if you could
Yeah,
waive
with
it.
15 days, yeah, we're, yeah,
We
there's a
can
lot
waive it.
going on, so, okay, so, motion by Peter, second by Anne Marie, to waive 2-5C, requiring the voter handbook be available no later than 15 days before the town meeting. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous, 500.
That's good. Need forfeits.
Okay, next is the consent agenda. Execute the warrant for the January 6, 2025 special town meeting. Committee appointment, Cosma Arroyo for a 3-year term to the Council on Aging to expire June 30th.
It would be, we can't do more than 3 years, so it would be June 30th of
2020.
2020.
27.
Yes, yes.
Because you got 28 would be over 3.
Accept $525 in donations to the fire department from a Wings Neck Trust, and B, in memory of Dana Palmer. Committee appointment, Brian Camel, sanitation foreman, appointed to the recycling committee for a term ending June 30th, 2026. And annual license renewals, which were attached to the agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda for December 10th, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Melissa. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous.
As part of license renewals, I know recently we just approved the new license for the new Dunkin' Donuts on MacArthur Boulevard. But was that for the end of the calendar year, or did that include a renewal for the next, or did it roll over?
It rolled over.
Okay. Just for clarification.
It was in the last quarter of the calendar year, so we just add in for the following.
Okay.
Okay?
Do we know if there's anybody else outstanding that
There-
hasn't renewed?
There will be some more next week.
Okay, because there was one other new one that I haven't seen come through, and I wanted to make sure that she just was last.
People, we are encouraging people to submit their information.
Okay. All right, next item, number 9, policy. Discussion of goals and priorities, mid-year check-in and update. Are we doing these separately? Yeah. Can we do future actions regarding marijuana HCA's first, before we get into the policy? Sure. Okay. What is this?
So I want to provide you an update. The 2 companies that you voted to move forward with, Chief Cannabis had no proposed changes to the HCA. and Cape Way Cannabis had some very minor language, very, very minor language changes that are innocuous. So those language changes have been reviewed, and we don't have any concerns with them. What I would like to know from the board, two questions. One, it's a template, so does the board want to consider making any other adjustments to the language? Or are you comfortable moving forward with the language as voted and as kind of advertised and has been out there for months?
I'm comfortable with the way it is, out of the amount of changes that were asked, yeah.
Yeah, I think we reviewed it and
Yeah, I think we had a template of things that we wanted to have included in the HCA's, and we included them, so.
Just checking.
I think we're good. So,
My second question is, does the select board want to sign these documents, or do you want to authorize me to sign these documents? So, we have it all set, we have the language, I need to know how to set up the signature page.
I prefer to have the town administrator sign it on behalf, because you're executing a legal contract, so she's the CEO, so let her sign it on our behalf.
and it includes this, the HCA includes they have to get through the planning board and everything within a certain period of time for it to be
Yeah.
complete. Okay.
Do you want that as a motion?
So if that's agreeable to the board, then yes, at this point for Chief Cannabis and for Cape Way Cannabis, I would recommend that you authorize me to finalize and sign those HCA's.
So move.
Second?
Motion by Peter, second by Melissa. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous.
Can I just have, I guess, just curious on the timeframe of executing that with you? This week, next week?
Yeah.
Okay, just trying to figure out stuff, because we still have a long process with the state to go through, so we're just
Yeah.
trying to set our expectations. Okay.
All right.
We'll wait to hear from you this week. Thank you very much, everybody.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now. Discussion on goals and priorities, mid-year check-in and update. And I think page 52 in our packet has the things we have scheduled and the things that we don't have scheduled, so. Do you have anything you want to say, or you want us to, no, yes?
No, I am waiting for direction.
Mum's the word, okay. So, we have, I'm just gonna, was this list in the public packet as well, or no?
Yes.
Okay. So December 17th, we have the capital projects, the dates to open and close the annual and special town meetings, designer recommendations from the ISWIM Building Committee, annual renewals of licenses, and continued discussion on goals and priorities if we need it. Before we move on from this date, one of the things that we have on the unscheduled is to have another negotiation with the town administrator to try to finalize that contract. Do we want to try to do that on the 17th? Yeah? Yeah, I
sure.
think Chris Brown said he would be available if we wanted him to come, so,
Yeah, it'd be nice to
yeah, I
close
think,
it out.
so we'll try to do an executive session on the 17th for that. January 7th, joint meeting with the Board of Health regarding the CWMP, and it's also like sort of a public information session on the CWMP, and department budgets with no proposed changes. So those will be, you'll have department heads coming to meet, see us. January 14th is the FY26 budget presentation and budget review. January 21st, presentation of Cape Cod Change Order of Commerce, Tourism, Destination and Marketing District, and discuss FY26 budget with department heads, those with the proposed increase. So, we've had a number of things sort of come up lately And so I wanted to get some direction from the board on what we think are the things that we want, in addition to the goals that we've set the town administrator on, to look at like what we need to pay attention to. So, does anyone from the list of things have things that they feel are important for us to get going on or set as priorities?
The things that are unscheduled?
Unscheduled, currently unscheduled. So we don't have them on a schedule. We have, we have some, let me talk about a couple things. So we have, once 90 Adams is turned back over to the town, we need to have a joint meeting with the planning board and I think conservation for, I don't know about
Disposition of public property.
disposition of public property. I know the planning board. So 90 Adams and the old police station, we would do that probably at the same meeting. And then we're just waiting for that transfer to happen. And once that happens, we'll put it on the schedule. 40B training and presentations of 2 proposed 40B projects. So we have 2 projects, one at the LaRusso property and one at the Christmas tree shop property that are interested in 40B and becoming LIP projects. And so we're going to have some training around that, right?
Jennifer Copeland is working on some options for you. I don't have a potential date yet.
Okay. So that's one thing that when that can get ready in January so that we can have those people who are anxious to come before us, but do it in the context of us understanding what we're doing and why we're doing it and what our decision tree should be in terms of what we're doing. We have the question of what we're going to do about social equity licenses for marijuana HCA's, whether we want to wait or move quickly into that. We have the Housing Authority appointment. We have another mid-year check-in on goals and priorities, which is part of what we did, I think, last year in January for starting the evaluation process of the town administrator. So the evaluation process of the town administrator, we sort of set that in motion in January because it's really due by February. I think that's what so we will set up those dates. And so there have been some other things. I mean, the old police station, review of the strategic plan, checking in on the bridges, and some policy things. What do we want to do about parking at Taylor's Point? You know, do we want to take action on that sooner or later, or?
Well, for policy, are we going to get back to our subcommittee work? Or is it going to be a full
I
working
think that
group
depends.
policy?
I think some of these we could do as a subcommittee level and bring to the board. If we're going to be talking about social equity, that has to be a board thing, yeah, so.
Well, yeah. But I'm just looking at, like, the memorials policy, the marina slips, special events, are those things that
Fees and
we
fee
can
waivers.
get more work
Right.
done at a subcommittee level as opposed to a
Yeah.
full board level.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, any thoughts?
Well, definitely going back to the subcommittee level and getting some of these things that are pretty straightforward out, through that process. So at least we're more efficient with our time with that, and then we spread them to the board when they're ready.
Okay. Is there anything in particular? I know that the trustees of the Veterans Memorial Community Building is interested in fees and fee waivers, because we're asked to waive fees a lot, and they feel that we should have somewhat of a consistent policy. And why we waive fees when we don't waive fees. Should we even charge the fees for these nonprofits that we're constantly waiving them for, or should we just say we're not gonna charge them? So that,
Yeah, and that also falls in with special events, doesn't it? Walks and rides and,
right,
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
So-
we have to take a look at the special
So
events
that's,
policy.
that's something we should kind of get to the finalized piece on if you guys have time.
And then, yeah, the whole field situation,
Yes.
since we've taken on now the responsibility of maintaining them.
I think the pilot program worked great last year for the baseball fields, so I want to see if we can expand that to do some of the other fields, just in a level of fairness. Because there are other programs in town that use fields as well, and we should.
Was that what that meant? Non-exclusive use of baseball
No.
fields liability? What is that?
So, the town is, stepping up and putting its money where its mouth is and taking care of these assets. So, the discussion we need to have is, how much are you going to charge for the use?
Okay.
And not, how are you going to make it clear that no particular group has exclusive use, that these are public assets for everyone in the community? And so there's some discussion, especially with the amount of money that we are investing in the upkeep, there needs to be some discussion about the expectation for what are the expectations of the users now, as far as how we expect them to treat our property, and what liability is the town willing to take on with allowing private equipment and materials to be stored there, and when are we not going to take on the liability of allowing private equipment to be stored on your property? So there is definitely a lot of discussion to be had around that.
So, and I think last year we did sort of a policy review meeting in February, which is a little bit aligned with kind of
Yeah.
goals, and it's sort of halfway between August and that. So we can put something together for having a February agenda item for policy review to figure out exactly what we're doing with that. I had some thoughts about the Taylor's Point neighborhood parking situation. One of my concerns is that a lot of these people that rent these parking spaces do it on an academic year. Like, they rent the space
From September
for the
to
school
June.
year, and
Right.
so if we try to change our policy within the school year, it would be difficult, because I think we need to, I need to understand more about this. I do want to understand more about it. I do take the neighbors' concerns. So I would like to have an agenda item to discuss this, with the idea that if we were going to start some sort of enforcement or licensure for private parking, that we'd want to have it in place early enough that people would be put on notice that there would be enforcement next August. So I would think about maybe sometime February or March, when we start getting sort of like less done with the
My name's Tim Scully, is
Yes.
from Taylor's Point, and I just have one little point I'd like to make. I hear you talking about looking at that process where everybody, cadets are parking on the property of owners, and they're all away. And I'm thinking about, the cadets are already there now, and they're there for the whole year. And they, from what I understand, they pay. I don't know what they pay, but from what I understand, they're paying, so they're probably paid up until the end of the school year.
right.
And my thought is, to get this thing going, is it possible to send notices to these people to say, come July, it's over?
We have to know what notices we're gonna send. We have to know what our basis is. We have to know what our parameters, the policy, what basis we're making these decisions on. So if we're gonna do something, that is the kind of the direction that I'm leaning in, that we need to spend some time on the policy, figuring out whether it's something we wanna take on enforcement of or not, but to do it in a time frame that would work, so it would be discontinued basically this year, or there are some people that probably might have the ability to rent some spaces, but not maybe 10 spaces.
I don't
or
really
something.
care if they park on their driveway.
Right,
You know, if they want to park in their driveways, go ahead. But we can't take it, it has to be, something has to be done by September anyway.
right. So we can't discuss this too much of an agenda item, because it's not a set agenda
I just
item.
wanted to bring it up, that's all.
So, but it is, I think we will keep that in mind with scheduling, that it would be in such a time frame as we would be able to have the discussion before the next academic year, so that people would know.
So can we put that on a schedule? So.
That's,
so I
we're
don't
talking
have to-
about, that's what we're talking about, what kind of schedule. And I said February or
February.
March.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
February or March is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, good, all right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that people want to work into right now?
I saw that the town seal was on there. I know I am planning on following up on that, so, I mean, I don't know what that looks like now, but I guess we need to find out what the Historic Commission is doing. It's been on their agenda, but they haven't moved on it, so.
Yeah, because they're waiting for you.
Yeah, that's what they say. Oh, yeah, of course. Sure.
Yeah, we're waiting for Melissa to do something, so.
That's the way always.
Yeah.
I won't say anything.
But one of the things that we should think about for the town seal, if we're going to do anything and if we need any funding, is do we need to have a warrant article for a consultant? I mean, if you're gonna actually do a town seal, you need to have graphic
There are
designer
firms
or
too, yeah.
consultant or something, so we should,
The company that did Mashpee's actually sent an email to me, so there's already some in mind that we could probably, when they get there, they can reach out to,
right. So, but if there's money that we need, and even if it's a small amount, I mean, if we need $20,000 to design this town seal, then we need $20,000, and if we're gonna take it on as a project, we need to get the funding, so.
Is CPC funding an option for the town seal because of its historical significance?
Probably
No.
not.
Nah.
Probably not.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, well, and I think an example of that would be the scanner that they wanted to buy for scanning all the fire department historical documents. They said you couldn't scan, you couldn't do CPC for that, so. All right, so do you want me to just, is there anything you're like, we gotta get moving on this right away, or we're just gonna do this as,
So, okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around everything.
okay?
Because we have a lot. So, we're talking about above and beyond CWMP, Southside Fire Station, the HCA, social equity.
Well, social equity is in there, because if we're gonna get, do we wanna get into renewed discussions on social equity? Does the board think it's gonna be a heavy lift? Do you think it's something we wanna wait on? Do we wanna, I mean, we didn't talk about our next step for that. And if we wanna wait and just reevaluate in February,
I don't see the harm in waiting a little bit on that. I think the CWMP, the ISWIM is moving like lightning speed.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pushing so fast.
We're meeting on the 17th earlier that afternoon, and then based on what comes out of that, AZA will bring the recommendation back to the board that night, because we were told yesterday the town administrator wants to move on an execution of a contract by the end of the year. So if it looks pretty straightforward through the interview process when we're screening these applicants next week, it could be to a point where AZA's standing before the mic giving a recommendation that evening on the behalf of the ISWIM Building Committee.
well,
If there's room on the agenda for the 17th that
I
evening.
think
to
we
give-
have it on the list. It's on the list for the 17th.
Okay, so.
Okay. So,
But there's a lot of things that are moving at a very fast pace that I think need a lot of focus.
right. And the other thing that I think that we should have a conversation about,
Not to mention the budget.
well, no, and the budget is a big thing. So, I mean,
It is
I'm
a big
okay with
thing.
kind of putting the brakes on new things
I
until
just
February,
think-
March. Let's
yeah.
kind of get the budget over to the finance committee. Let's get that done. That's a lot of work. I'm okay with waiting for social equity until February, we decide what we're gonna do about that next step.
I don't think it's gonna be that heavy a lift, but I just think that it can wait.
Yeah, so let's take a pause on it.
Yeah.
Taylor's parking, I don't wanna deal with really until February or March after we, do that.
And then we can coordinate with Marlene, the policy sub
Yeah.
work.
The only other thing, and it's kind of gonna come up now, maybe if it's, I'll put it on the agenda for talking next week, is building committees. Because if we're gonna have a Southside Fire Station Committee, building committee, a library building committee, a ISWAM building committee, I think we need to talk about that,
You're gonna need another building committee for the police station roof.
and the police station roof.
Well, I think at some point, some communities have a building committee and that's all they do, and some,
Right.
and maybe we should look into the benefit of that. And while we're at MMA, Mass Municipal, in January, we can talk to some of our peers while we're up there and see how those communities that have building committees by right, see how they work out, and then bring our ideas back here to this board after that.
Because I think we put some thought into ISOM about the ISOM building committee, about what types of people we wanted to have on that committee. If you have a standing building committee, then for each project, there's specific people related to that project that are appointed for that project, so that you have your core committee and then you have your project-specific people committee.
And don't
But it might
forget-
make it easier for Marlene.
Yeah, I know, and other than school building committees are exempt because of statute, so those committees are set aside and appointed by.
Well, actually, a lot of those also end up working with a standing building committee
and-
with like school committee specific appointed
Right.
Yeah, but I'm just
principals or
saying that-
Right.
whatever. Yeah,
Representation.
Yeah,
right.
Wait, Spring is
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so are we good? We're just gonna stick with this schedule for now, and we'll just keep moving things and have a policy discussion again February 4th, maybe, or 11th. Sound good?
Does the town administrator have any priority with respects to policies? Are there some that we could easily,
So I don't.
or do we need to tackle more of,
I don't think they're necessarily going to be easy, but I think the highest priority ones are, before next event season, we need to button up some of the changes we need to make to the special events policy, especially to make sure that we are applying it consistently, and, we're not granting waivers for some groups and so we've got
I
very
think we need some
consistent
consistency, because I think that's.
application.
Right, it makes it simpler too.
yeah, to review language to ensure.
And a lot of times we have people that end up coming for an event approval and then coming back for a license, for a fee waiver, and if we could somehow streamline that, if you meet certain criteria, we can, so.
So I think special events are taking, a look at the last outstanding items on special events. I think fees and fee waivers is high priority. And I think the use of the liability and exclusive use of town-owned property is a high priority.
Okay.
Because
Supposed to do
those are
anything
coming,
with signing this?
the bottom,
Bottom
sorry, the
right.
bottom squares is
Okay.
where you sign.
Okay.
Because those are going, there's a seasonality to this, and we want to have, we're gonna miss the season again, and changing things in the middle of the season is not recommended. So we wanna have this done well in advance of people coming in, applying for next summer.
Okay.
And when town hall's on the receiving end of the phone call, they
So maybe we can kind of focus,
have a-
try to work something for focusing on that in February. And
Yeah. But what I will say is I think that, given the meeting schedule already, policies subcommittee really needs to be like once a month. It can't be a once a week meeting.
No.
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 I'm at the table with all of the groups.
You're in collective bargaining.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
So collective bargaining is, yeah.
But I think getting back to just,
Yes.
Is there more than one?
But if we can do a once a month standing policy subcommittee meeting
sure.
for those 3 items to start with, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. Town administrator recommendation to dissolve the road traffic safety committee.
So, what I want to say here is that this is not a town administrator appointed committee. It is a select board committee, and I respect that and I appreciate that. So this is not my call. However, some people have asked me, and I've answered them, but they've asked me individually. So I haven't had a chance to talk to the board yet, and I do want to share kind of those individual conversations with the full membership. It's no secret that I'm not a fan of staff-heavy committees. We talked about that at length with the wastewater advisory committee. The staff has the ability to make a recommendation, and that's their recommendation. And having staff on a committee, especially a committee like the Road Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, where there's statutory requirements that these employees are bound to by their position. So putting a DPW director or a police chief on a committee and then expecting them to go along with changing their professional recommendation because of public pressure, essentially, is not a good way to operate. So the select board are the road commissioners. So the staff, we need to make a recommendation to the select board, and the select board needs to vote if there's going to be a change to the traffic orders. And the staff needs to be 100% free to speak to you as their position, their appointed position as an employee, not as a committee member who's been outvoted. So if there's something that needs to come before the board for public input, it should come before the select board, and the staff should give you their professional recommendation. Now, right now, the Road Traffic Safety Advisory Committee is taking a lot of that public input, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but the staff is not the decision makers, the select board's the decision makers. And I'm not in favor of having the staff sit on a committee and say, well, no, my professional recommendation is no, we should not do this, and then feel like they have to, change their mind as part of a discussion.
So this committee was proposed by the prior town administrator, was put in place by the prior town administrator as a way that he had worked in another town. It's, I don't think it's necessary.
I agree.
I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I think if there's a method for people who have safety concerns to contact either the town administrator or the police chief or DPW and say, I have a concern, the staff can get together and discuss it, right? And if they think something should be done, they can come to the select board, and the select board can accept their recommendation. I mean, or
Right.
not. I mean,
And that's the rub. So a very vocal, for an example, if there's a vocal person who is just convinced that we should make a change, but the DPW director, the police chief, the engineering department does not agree with that person, the staff is not going to come forward and make a recommendation to make that change. So the board has to understand that, your constituents can reach out to the board and they can request that you discuss something. That does not mean that the staff is going to support that position. And that does not mean the staff is going to give them a different answer. So we will give our professional recommendation to the board, and the board ultimately can vote. But if there is a request from the public to make a change that we don't believe should be made, I am not going to ask you to put that on the agenda.
okay. Peter?
I think when this committee was created, it was created for many reasons. And I think it's outlived its usefulness. I think that the points that Maureen has made are very valid. And I just think that it's time to pull the plug, and thank the committee for their service. And then we can go back to the drawing board at some point and look at something different. 'Cause what was intended was to take the stress away from the town administration staff. But times have changed, and I think that the committee has done great work, but I think it's time to eliminate it and look at other ways of facilitating these problems. And so we can work with the town administrator and the assistant town administrator going forward to see what those options are, and it may be a case-by-case basis, but I think what was well-intended, I think it's time to just eliminate the committee with thanking the people for their service and doing what they were asked to do. And because it's hard to get people to serve on anything these days, so the fact that we have staff and people from the community involved with this, in concept it's great, but I think we can show why in some ways it doesn't work. And so I think it's time to eliminate the committee.
As someone that sat on the committee, I can agree. It makes me feel uncomfortable, and I can't, and to have all these people in the room together and knowing how busy they are and what everyone has to do, it does feel like it's really, maybe at one point there was a need for it, but I think staff is working well together and everyone's communicating, and it's not necessary to bring all those parties in, and have to give opinions, vote.
It puts the staff in an
It's
unnecessary
an
awkward
awkward
position as a
yeah.
professional.
But having said that, at the last meeting that we did have with the grievances with the Taylor's Point, I must say, I was really impressed with how everyone was. Liz and Tim running, trying to stay on track with the topic of the meeting. The chief with maintaining his stance on his policy and how we handle security in Bourne and trying to stay on topic. I was really impressed with how everyone's
When
worked
you
together.
talk Polar Express, the
Yeah.
Polar Express.
Yeah,
thing.
that was a pretty tough meeting, and I was surprised at the aggressive stance of the train, Mass Coastal, because even the woman with the Polar Express, the marketing person, was trying to do her thing, explain, and there's this elephant in the room, and I think the town staff really handled that well, because that could have been
A lot worse.
a lot worse than it was. It was a well-handled meeting, and productive. But that being said, I don't think.
So can we take a vote to dissolve the committee now, or should we put it on as another agenda item?
We can take a vote now, because it says to dissolve the committee.
It's been on the
agenda item, why
agenda
not?
Yeah.
already, so-
Okay,
Make a motion that we dissolve the Road Traffic Safety Committee and send letters to the members thanking them for their service.
Second.
is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Okay. We don't have minutes, I don't think. Do we? Committee reports and the town administrator report.
So, yeah, sorry about
Committee
that.
on one.
Committee one.
You
So-
can go first.
Thanks. I only have 3 items, but 2 of them are rather lengthy. As the board knows, Mass Development has been communicating with the town over the past year regarding a limited planning effort at Joint Base Cape Cod. Very recently, Mass Development notified me that they will be taking a much more comprehensive look at the future of JBCC. Yesterday, a request for proposals was posted on Mass Development's website to conduct a master plan for the cantonment area. The base is comprised of the northern training area, which is about 15,000 acres, and the southern cantonment area, which is approximately 7,000 acres. The cantonment area is used for training support facilities such as simulators, hangars, and facilities for the commands, including housing for military families managed by the U.S. Coast Guard. Mass Development is searching for a qualified consulting team to create a combined and coordinated military and civilian land use and building plan to identify the military command's current and future spatial needs and desires with an update of their spatial needs analysis and identification of excess assets to determine the available land area for future non-military use and the timing of when the land may be available. To identify potential recommended land uses, densities, and styles or topologies for these areas, including residential, commercial, open space recreation, and required infrastructure. And to conduct market, economic, and fiscal impact studies and to outline a permitting framework for future development. Mass Development anticipates that this will be a multi-year process and has tasked the respondents with developing an open, transparent, and inclusive public participation plan, with the team demonstrating deep experience and expertise in facilitating discussion. Responses are due back to Mass Development on Friday, February 7th, with the selection of the team sometime in March of 2025. So this is something that could lead to very significant changes. Internally, changes will be going into effect on January 1st, 2025 to the federal Medicare program. These changes will have an impact on both the town's operating budget and the retirees who participate in the Medicare program, either through a MedX or Medicare RX health insurance plan. These are complex programs and the rules are very confusing. We will be talking about this throughout the winter as we look at the FY26 budget, and I am happy to schedule the town's health insurance advisor, Cook and Company, to come address the board to talk about the details if you feel like that would be helpful.
Yes.
There are no changes proposed to the contribution split. The town pays 75% of the cost of the selected health insurance plan. The employee or retiree pays 25% of the plan they have selected. However, only retirees are eligible for the Medicare plans. These options are not available to any active employees. First, Medicare plans are reviewed on a calendar basis. This does not align with our fiscal year for setting budgets and setting non-Medicare plan rates. The town reviews all of the information with our advisors from Cook and Company in the late fall. During our most recent review, our advisors recommended an increase to the Medicare plan rates. It was explained that the recommended increase is not unique to Bourne, but is being driven primarily by changes to the federal law. Beginning January 1st, 2025, the Medicare out-of-pocket maximum is being reduced from $8,000 a year to $2,000 per year for the plan participant. These costs that will no longer be paid out of pocket are being shifted to the annual premium cost of the plan. This is coupled with an expected increase in prescription drug-related claims of 23.6% within the Medicare eligible plans. The town's advisors recommended that we take a staggered approach to catch up the rates to account for this change, with a 15% increase in calendar year 2025 and a similar increase in 2026. For 2025, this means that the total plan cost will increase from $394.29 to $453.43, with a total increase of $14.79 for the retiree and an increase to the town budget of $59.14 per Medicare eligible retiree. For fiscal year 25, we do not anticipate being able to absorb this additional cost and plan on making a supplemental budget request at the spring special town meeting to backfill the anticipated $12,000 shortfall in the group health insurance budget. We are also planning for this cost while building the FY26 operating budget, and we'll discuss this again in January with the board. The final item is the Sagamore ramp project is now underway and the parking lot has been closed to allow for construction.
Thank you. Any committee reports?
Tomorrow, at 1 o'clock in this room, will be the Affordable Housing Trust, where we'll be talking about 5 Cranberry Highway, the proposed 40B project for that area. So it'll be, if anybody has time, but it should be on the town's local access, and and stay tuned. And if you can't be there,
What
watch it
time?
on replay.
1?
1.
Is the Bourne TV do it?
Yes.
Okay. I was at the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund meeting today, and they entered into a new agreement with the Clean Water Trust on how the payments are gonna be made. They did this last year. So instead of getting a lump sum 25% payment at the beginning of a project, they're gonna be sending their 25% of your principal payment, your principal and interest payment, and it's gonna be done staggered. That's the way they could keep it at 25%. But they did say, as part of that agreement, that they will be, the management board will be noticed by January 31st for payments in the next fiscal year, which will be made July 10th. So, I didn't bring this up at sewer because there wasn't a committee reports, but, so for the debt service on the headworks and clarifiers,
In Wareham.
yeah, that's not gonna happen next year. It's gonna be a while, because usually it's 50%, but we'll know in advance how that's gonna work when it does come. So, that's just, because they did say they would contribute our portion of that project. They are gonna give that money to us, so it's good. Okay, we'll entertain a correspondence.
One item, A, CSHOC Talent Bank Forum, Bourne Cultural Council. That's it.
Awesome.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Anne Marie.
know, someone second. This is one of those.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed, abstentions?
It was one of those.